Hello, lovely listeners. I'm Sarah Sawakis. Welcome to the Mother Flutter podcast. I am so excited because we have Dana Drahos with us today of Wombology. She is a feminine embodiment coach and she does a lot of work with hormone health. And she inspired me to get off birth control and start looking into my cycle and what the hell was going on instead of just covering it up with meds. Dana, welcome to the Mother Flutter podcast.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much. I didn't even know that I inspired you to come off birth control, so that's so cool.
Heck yeah. I had a copper IUD for 10 years. And actually probably longer than that because I did back to back. And the copper IUD is quote unquote non-hormonal.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, having had it out for several months, my periods are so much lighter, so much easier, way fewer cramps, and I'm kind of mad after being told that this was a non-hormonal birth control that didn't have side effects.
Yeah, and I can even dive into that more, but yeah, we're told it's non-hormonal, and it technically is non-hormonal because of the way it works, but because of the way it works, as a downstream effect, it ends up affecting your hormones ultimately.
100%. So we're just jumping right in.
Let's do it.
But yeah, so it's non-hormonal in the sense that you're not receiving hormones like you would with the pill or the hormonal IUD.
Yeah.
But it's a piece of copper and it's an implant that doesn't belong in your body, that's forced in your body, and something like that, I don't, have the reports, but, it'd be likely that would affect your hormones.
Yeah, well, the way that it works is it causes inflammation on purpose so that your body is not a, habitable, it's not a good habitat to support life. So it literally creates inflammation on purpose so that it's harder for sperm to reach the egg. And that inflammation, they say, is only local to the uterus, but hello, the bloodstream is not just local to the uterus, that shit goes everywhere, and so you end up with body-wide inflammation, and that's also why the cramps are so much worse and why the bleeding is so much worse as well, typically for most women.
Okay.
Copper also, because copper as a mineral competes with zinc, so when there's too much copper in the body, there's less zinc produced in the body, and
Okay.
zinc is a vital mineral for ovulation and production of progesterone, which is your hormone in the luteal phase. So
we'll explain what that is in a moment, folks.
Yes. So basically, even though they say it's non-hormonal and you'll still ovulate, a lot of women don't because of this, lack of zinc that is necessary for healthy ovulation, and then you end up not ovulating. And ovulation is an important part of health as females, and then you end up with high estrogen because you're not getting progesterone, and the hormones get imbalanced ultimately.
100%. I want to give people a little background knowledge because I just launched into hey, I'm not on birth control anymore. But I'm so excited to have you because I wanted to create this podcast because I'm just obsessed with kind of this gray area between science and magic or ritual or ceremony and kind of the unexplained, because I think that we need both, and people tend to. Hello, lovely listeners. I'm Sarah Sawakis. Welcome to the Mother Flutter podcast. I am so excited because we have Dana Drahos with us today of Wombology. She is a feminine embodiment coach and she does a lot of work with hormone health. And she inspired me to get off birth control and start looking into my cycle and what the hell was going on instead of just covering it up with meds. Dana, welcome to the Mother Flutter podcast.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much. I didn't even know that I inspired you to come off birth control, so that's so cool.
Heck yeah. I had a copper IUD for 10 years. And actually probably longer than that because I did back to back. And the copper IUD is quote unquote non-hormonal.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, having had it out for several months, my periods are so much lighter, so much easier, way fewer cramps, and I'm kind of mad after being told that this was a non-hormonal birth control that didn't have side effects.
Yeah, and like I can even dive into that more, but yeah, we're told it's non-hormonal, and it like technically is non-hormonal because of the way it works, but because of the way it works, as a downstream effect, it ends up affecting your hormones ultimately.
100%. So we're just jumping right in.
Let's do it.
But yeah, so it's non-hormonal in the sense that you're not receiving hormones like you would with the pill or the hormonal IUD.
Yeah.
But it's a piece of copper and it's an implant that doesn't belong in your body, that's forced in your body, and something like that, I don't, have the reports, but, it'd be likely that would affect your hormones.
Yeah, well, the way that it works is it causes inflammation on purpose so that your body is not a habitable, it's not a good habitat to support life. So it literally creates inflammation on purpose so that it's harder for sperm to reach the egg, and that inflammation, they say, is only local to the uterus, but hello, like the bloodstream is not just local to the uterus, like that shit goes everywhere, and so you end up with body-wide inflammation, and that's also why the cramps are so much worse and why the bleeding is so much worse as well, typically for most women.
Okay.
Copper also, because copper as a mineral competes with zinc, so when there's too much copper in the body, there's less zinc produced in the body, and zinc is a vital mineral for ovulation and production of progesterone, which is your hormone of the luteal phase. So
we'll explain what that is in a moment, folks.
Yes. So basically, even though they say it's non-hormonal and you'll still ovulate, a lot of women don't because of this, lack of zinc that is necessary for healthy ovulation, and then you end up not ovulating. And ovulation is an important part of health as females, and then you end up with high estrogen because you're not getting progesterone, and the hormones get imbalanced ultimately.
100%. I want to give people a little background knowledge because I just launched into like, hey, I'm not on birth control anymore. But I'm so excited to have you because like I wanted to create this podcast because I'm just like obsessed with kind of this like gray area between science and magic or ritual or ceremony and kind of the unexplained. Because I think that we need both, and people tend to lean too hard in like one direction. It's either like only trust the doctors and the science, which is constantly being disproven, or you get like the super heavy like moon goddess people who don't want to go to the doctor even though they have like a fully abscessed tooth, and it's like, well, maybe like there's a few exceptions.
Yeah.
And what I love about your story is that like you did work in pharmaceuticals. You worked in the pharmaceutical industry.
I came over from the dark side.
Yeah, so you really saw that, and you have a background in nutrition. You're a certified nutritionist. So you're also a moon goddess, but you're not just a moon goddess. Like you have your foot in science and like intuition and more like of the wellness world.
Yes, yeah.
And I want to, so yeah, we're going to talk about periods, guys. Like, Dana is sick of, like, just this crazy world we live in where, like, it's gross that we have periods when it's a perfectly natural, healthy thing that happens to women every month. It's demonized, and men, if you're listening, like, this is for you too. I think it's so valuable for men to understand, like, what happens with female hormones every month, you know? Like, this is gonna help you.
Oh,
for
like,
sure.
do you know how attractive it is when a man, like, understand, or even, you don't even have to, like, understand everything, but just, like, have an interest in trying to understand and, like, asking me questions and, like, and saying, you know, that you, like, having sex with me even if I'm on my period and thinking that that's beautiful, not being like, ew, you know, if I
Right.
want that. Yeah, also, just a little quick fun fact for the men is that your testosterone naturally rises in the presence of an ovulating woman.
Whoa.
And so it's such a problem that, like, so many women are on birth control and not ovulating.
Whoa.
Because it's impacting male testosterone. And we also see a lot of men having lower testosterone these days.
I've heard that.
Also because of, like, all the chemicals and shit that we come into contact with, but also because, yeah, like, your hormones interact with our hormones on, like, this very subtle, like, biological level. And so if you wanna get swole and, you know, whatever the guys say,
And
like,
get laid,
like, you know, being an advocate for women being able to, like, freely be on their cycle versus, you know, suppressing their cycle on birth control is to your advantage.
100%. And just understanding, like, you know, the different moods and the way that our cycles affect us. It's a very natural thing and very valuable if you kind of, like, shift your perception. I like learning about male hormones, you know. I date men. I want to understand men, you know. And I think that in our world there's a lot of, like, hate on both sides, and the dating scene is admittedly very frustrating. But I think, like, men and women are different, you know. Don't cancel me for saying that.
No,
and
yeah,
it
like,
helps to understand those differences.
Yeah, I always say that, like, the feminist movement was pushing for this equality, which was kind of defined as, like, sameness, like wanting like pushing for women to be, like, seen as equal, like, seen as the same or treated the same as men, when it's like, can't we see our differences as equally valuable?
Right.
Like, we are different, but can we equally value what women bring to the table with our, like, feminine superpowers that come through being in sync with our cycle?
100%. I have chills. I really do. So I wanted to talk about, well, first of all, I got off birth control this year, again, inspired by you. And one thing that when I did it, you know, I'm single, I'm dating, I'd like to have kids one day, certainly not ready to be pregnant, certainly not ready to be pregnant in Texas, you know. But the more I started learning about, like, natural family planning and tracking your cycle, I was like, oh, you can just, like, not get pregnant by paying a little bit of attention to what you're doing, you know? But it also was like, it's forced me to be, like, really discerning about my energy. And there's this comedian, Candace Thompson, who has this joke about how, you know, we call, like, casual sex and how there's, like, nothing casual about it. Like, you can literally make a human, you know. I don't want to, like, spoil the bit, but it resonates. And I don't know, what does that kind of come into your sphere at all? Does that resonate?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, like, not being just so open about, like, oh, anyone can just, like, walk up in here. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, yeah. Like I think like hookup culture is kind of damaging for men and women.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about the book Period Power. And is it Maisie Hill, the author? I think it's like
I
on
think
the
I've read
table.
that one actually.
Really?
To be honest.
Oh my god. Hold on, let me grab it. It's right on the table.
Okay.
Woo! Okay. Yeah, Period Power by Maisie Hill. This book has changed my life. I definitely recommend. I've recommended it to like anytime my girlfriend's complaining about their period or birth control. I'm like, you gotta read this book.
Yeah.
Which is another thing. So one of the things they talk about is like the beginning of birth control was also the beginning of like Playboy clubs and like, you know, strip clubs and things like that. And it was like all like free love and all this stuff because people could just like go at it without getting pregnant. And I don't know if that's been good for us.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I definitely had my hoe phase.
Sure.
In my, early and mid 20s, and it did not, do anything good for me. And now I feel like I'm much more discerning about who I allow access to me and my energy, and I am able to harness and direct the energy I have into the things that I'm passionate about that like actually bring good into the world. And as women, we have this incredible creative power through our ovulation. Like it's not just about creating babies, it's about creating whatever we want to create in the world. And when we are allowing that energy to be siphoned out to like men who don't deserve it, quite honestly, like the world loses out on what we have to offer.
For sure, yeah. And I'm not anti-hoe. Like if you're living your best life as a hoe, like good for you. I'm kind of jealous, but like I know that like it depletes me. It's not good for me. It's not good for my heart, soul.
Yeah.
So I also, I wanted to talk about just how culturally periods are seen as so dirty and gross, and we shouldn't talk about it. And you have to fucking like wrap your tampon up in toilet paper to hide it, to throw it away in the garbage, which is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, where did this come from? Like it's changing a little bit, but not much. Like there's just so much shame around it, and it is like a sign of health. And so what has been your experience with like doing what you do and being so like loud and proud about period health and hormonal health, and like do you see the culture shift, and like what are your theories about why it's been programmed into us that this is like this dirty bad thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about dominance and control. I think it's like a play by the patriarchy of like to keep women down and keep them feeling disempowered, and to continue making them feel shame so that they can be controlled and coerced and manipulated. And as far as if I see the culture shifting, I mean, I think my Instagram algorithm is perhaps biased because I have curated my feed that like all the people I follow are like, on the same track as me. So like I see other women posting even more like out there shit than me, in terms of like I put my period blood on my face, or I like like water.
She really does.
She really does. Or like watering my pants. Watering my plants with my period blood.
I have done that.
Yeah.
I can't do the face yet.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we'll get there. We'll work up to it. And like yoni steaming, like people still think that's a bit out there.
Yeah, I can't. I respect it.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're hearing this, guys, and you're scared, it's okay. I am too. But
yeah,
small
like,
small steps.
Small steps. It just like it just feels so liberating to me after like so long of hating my own body, having this shame around my own body. It just feels like a fuck you to the patriarchy and like taking back my power, and it just feels so powerful for me to do that. And I do it online to like inspire others, like perhaps they would find empowerment in that as well. It's not to like shock or like, just like be weird on the internet for no reason. And I do still see, like, especially when other creators who have much bigger followings than me, like when they post stuff like that and their stuff goes viral, like there's a lot of hate in those comments still, even from women, especially from women often, because they've been like programmed to have so much hate about it in themselves, that when they see another woman standing in her power and like having that liberation, it's like triggering, because actually like they wish that they could like experience that and they feel like they can't. So yeah, I hope that, the more that I just keep putting it out there, like eventually the more and more, like it's just gonna become normalized. Like people are just gonna see it and be like, oh yeah, yoni steaming, normal, okay.
For sure, yeah. The triggering thing, I think, is like really accurate, because I think that, you're talking about, we're programmed to be ashamed of our bodies because it keeps us, more easily like controlled and quiet. And I think that is so true. And I, said this a million times, because it's not just about periods, it's about, we are very profitable as a species, or culture, when we feel ashamed and less than. And we're more likely to buy things to try and solve our problems, or put our trust and faith in someone else, and like not own our own power.
Yeah. And like, as we were talking about before we got on, and I mentioned my past in pharmaceutical advertising and like the deception of marketing, like marketing is literally about often creating, like making you think you have a problem that needs to be solved with this product.
Right.
Really that problem might not even exist, or like the industry will actively create a problem so that they can solve it, quote,
right,
with their product. And so yeah, I think we've just been conditioned to believe that our periods are a problem, so that big pharma can come in and be like, look, we have this birth control that like fixes all of that, even though it doesn't.
Erases it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something this book goes into is period power. Again, Maisie Hill, recommend. It goes into like, there's a huge chart of all the different birth control options, and like, different things that have gone wrong, and like the mechanisms for like how they work. And it's terrifying. Like, I was always kind of scared of hormonal birth control, which is why I did the copper IUD. But like, what have you learned about, like hormonal birth control? Because I know you're kind of an advocate for people not being on it. And so I think you'd be able to speak a little bit more intelligently on like, why it's bad.
Yeah, like I'm an advocate for people being fully informed about all the options and all of the risks and benefits, because I don't know if you were to have told me when I was a teenager who like just wanted to have sex with my boyfriend and was like drinking all the time and like wasn't responsible about like condoms or anything like that, if you had told me about fertility awareness and tracking my cycle, I don't know that I would have gone for that at that age, you know.
You just wanted like an easy solution, and you saw the ads on TV, and you're like, well.
And all my friends were on it, like, yeah. But I wish I knew that the other options existed, because maybe I would have made a different choice. I don't know. Or if I would have known like the impact of alcohol on my hormones, maybe I wouldn't have drank so much. You know,
right?
Like there's just so much that we didn't know. But anyway, yeah. So hormonal birth control. A big thing about it is that it really disrupts your gut health, your gut microbiome, and then that's a problem, because then you're not effectively absorbing the nutrients from the food that you eat. And that's a problem, because our whole body operates on the nutrients that we eat. It's not just about, we don't just like eat for energy or calories or fuel or whatever. Like, our hormones are literally made, like the building blocks, the materials that our hormones are created from is from the food that we eat, the vitamins, the minerals. And so when people are skipping meals and fasting and like having coffee as breakfast, or on birth control and have this like destroyed gut microbiome, they're not getting the proper nutrients to be able to like create your hormones. And so that's why often, you know, we're told that, oh yeah, hormonal birth control fixes your, like regulates your cycle and fixes your period or whatever. Oh, well then why, when women get off birth control, are their hormones so much worse? Because they are very nutrient depleted, their gut microbiome is shot, their liver is negatively impacted, so they're not like as effectively detoxifying all of the chemicals that we come into contact with daily, and the synthetic hormones. And also, you know, there's something like 200% increased risk of depression and suicide, like especially for teens on hormonal birth control.
Holy shit.
And that's also because of this impact on the gut. There's the gut-brain connection that's been very heavily studied, and most of our serotonin is produced in the gut, and serotonin is our like feel-good neurotransmitter. That's like when you step out into the sunshine and you feel the sun and you just feel this good feeling, that's like serotonin being like popping off. And so we get, you know, significantly less serotonin. And what else? Well, it's also classified as a class 1 carcinogen, which means it's a known cancer cause cancer.
No, I didn't know that. Maybe I read it and blocked it out.
Yeah. So there's increased risk of cancer, and people will argue, well, it decreases your risk of like these other kinds of cancers. It's like, well, you could also decrease your risk for those cancers with like proper diet and lifestyle. You don't have to like destroy your body. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And
I want to say too, like, I know that this is a little bit out there, but I'm going to say it, like we were talking on the way here, cancer is extremely fucking profitable for the medical industry, you know? And like we were talking about how when your medical system is all for profit, like there's no way for it to not be corrupt. And so I'm not saying that anyone's like purposely giving people cancer. I'm just saying that if you get it, like that is so much money.
Yeah.
In
totally.
You know, pockets with treatments and hospital. Yeah, it's really scary.
Yeah. And then I also wanna just explain like how does birth control even work, because I think there's also a lot of misconceptions around that. Like people will say, oh, like it doesn't impact your cycle, or like whatever people say.
Well, they believe the marketing.
Yeah, right.
Because they think that they're honest companies, and they think that you can trust, you know, all doctors and, you know, medical professionals, but just like any professional, they're not all good.
Right. Yeah, so the way it works with the hormonal birth control, we already talked about the copper and like the inflammation, and the copper is toxic to sperm and your body in high amounts. So the hormonal birth control works by suppressing the hormones that trigger ovulation to occur. So you won't ovulate, so there's no egg to be fertilized. And then even if somehow an egg still does, like somehow you do still ovulate, it also thickens your cervical mucus, which makes it harder for the sperm to swim to the egg. And then even if the sperm was somehow able to swim to the egg.
And just to clarify, like the thickening of the cervical mucus, that's also inflammation, right? Or no?
I don't know if I would say that.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, it doesn't sound good.
It doesn't sound good, yeah. And then it also thins your uterine lining, so that even if you ovulated, even if a sperm reached the egg and fertilized it, it wouldn't implant in the uterus and be able to like grow, because the egg gets fertilized in the fallopian tube, and then it has to travel through the fallopian tube to the uterine lining, and then it has to like stick there so that it grows. But with the uterine lining being thin, it like wouldn't last, it wouldn't survive there. So there's kind of like a 3-tiered defense, I suppose. And so the problem with all of that is that ovulation is like our female biology, like whether you consciously want to be pregnant or not, like this is what your body is designed to do. And it's a sign when you ovulate regularly that you are healthy, that things are working as they should. And when you don't ovulate, you don't produce the hormone progesterone, which is like the main hormone in the second half of your cycle in the luteal phase. And progesterone is like a really important hormone. Both estrogen and progesterone, the natural versions. Oh, this is the common misconception too, is that people think that the synthetic hormones that you get put on with birth control is the same as your natural estrogen and progesterone, when it's not. Like they are completely chemically a different makeup. And the synthetic hormones have all of these negative, like cancer causing side effects. And your natural hormones have all these important benefits, like your bone health, your ability to be resilient towards stress, hair growth, your cardiovascular system. Like they're not just there for no reason. Like
Right.
We've been designed, intelligently with all the things that we need.
Right.
And so to just like be like, well, I don't need a cycle, I don't need a period, I don't need to ovulate, I don't need these hormones. Like, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
If you want to be thriving, sure, you can survive. You can still live. Like your body is that fucking hardcore that it's still gonna keep you alive if you don't have these things. But I don't know much about cars, but I feel like it would be like putting a shitty gasoline in a car. Like it's not gonna, it might run, but it's not gonna run as well. Like
Dana doesn't have a car.
I don't
and
have a car,
I put shitty gasoline in my car for life, so I don't know if that works. But
well, I'm sure
I know
there's
what
a
you
better
mean. Yeah.
analogy.
It's like eating McDonald's every day and expecting to be like,
right,
fully
right.
functioning Olympic athlete. Like, no,
Right.
it's not gonna happen. Like,
Mhm. Yeah, and and then just the other like last point that I want to make. If you're in your 20s and 30s, like now is the time to be really caring about your hormone health, to prepare for perimenopause and menopause. Like I am seeing all in my feed now, all these women in their 40s, 50s who are like really struggling and like having all these issues. And yeah, it's a whole generation of women who were on birth control for a very, very long time, not having their natural hormones, and now is fucked up.
Yeah.
And the reason, so like what happens in perimenopause is your ovaries stop producing estrogen less and less, and progesterone less and less, because you're not ovulating. And then the hormonal production shifts to your adrenal glands. So now the adrenal glands take over, and they're the ones producing your estrogen, your progesterone, cortisol, like testosterone, things like that. But by the time most women like get to that age, their adrenals are so shot because of like all the stress and living out of sync with their natural cycle, and because of the impacts that birth control has on like depleting your nutrients and all the things that I talked about before. This is why, like, just as period pain is common but not normal, like it doesn't have to be that way. The same with perimenopause. Like, it doesn't have to be as terrible as it is for a lot of women these days if we take control of our health now in our 20s and 30s and like prepare our bodies for that time.
So what about like, I know you're talking about there's synthetic hormones in birth control, and they don't work the same as, you know, the hormones that we produce naturally. But I've heard, you know, there's like a lot of you know, new findings with like hormone replacement, you know, treatments for men and women, like, you know, once they hit 40, 50 and the hormones start to drop off. So is that different than, like, I mean, are they all synthetic? Are we harvesting them from I don't know. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm less like an expert in the hormone replacement therapy stuff. I think that those, don't quote me on this, but I think those are meant to be like bioidentical, which means like actually more similar to the natural hormones.
Okay.
But I could be wrong about that.
Okay. Well, we'll just pivot. I wanted to, you know, so, well, I love that you mentioned like the gut and how, you know, birth control and I'm sure other meds, but I think it's like pretty common knowledge now. People have heard about like the gut-brain connection. I've actually heard that people say we have 3 brains, right? Like our brain that we have in our skull, our gut, and our hearts. And, you know, we put so much emphasis on the brain in our skull and, you know, thinking and, you know, again, science and data that's disproven 2 years later. And we need to put more value on like gut health, and a lot of, as you said, like depression can be from gut issues because you produce serotonin from like good gut health, and I just think that that's important, you know. And I also like, so I want to talk about just like kind of giving people the basics for like the female cycle and like what it is, you know, because like you're throwing out luteal, and like I heard that for probably 5 years before I actually knew what it meant, you know. And so in this book that I keep referencing, Period Power, she breaks it down into seasons, which I think you're familiar with. And so basically, like, winter is you're bleeding, like day 1 you're bleeding until you stop. Spring is gonna be like the lead up to ovulation. During ovulation and like just before and just after is gonna be your summer, quote unquote. And then it goes into autumn, where you kind of like, you know, start to get tired, you wanna hibernate, you wanna eat, and you know, prepare for winter. And so for somebody who doesn't know these terms, Dana, like, what is your overview for like what that looks like?
Yeah, for sure. And it takes a few times to hear it over and over again until you get it. But yeah, so what's so cool is that our cycle, we have these 4 unique hormonal phases, where in each phase different hormones are rising and falling, and each of these hormones give us these unique like benefits and superpowers, as we call them, in each phase. And when you live in a way that supports your hormones in each phase as they're changing, like, you get to experience those benefits. Are you trying to say?
Yeah, my cat just took a shit and I'm gonna clean it so that we don't have to smell it. But please continue.
Okay. So what's so cool is that these 4 hormonal phases reflect the 4 seasons of the earth. So just as in earth and nature, when like how important it is for the plants to have this season of winter for hibernation, for stillness, for darkness, that helps them to thrive in the spring and the summer. It helps them to bloom in the spring and the summer. And so just like that is so reflected in our female body. And so menstruation, the menstrual phase, is when we are bleeding, and that is our inner winter, where for us it is really important and beneficial to actually take the time to rest, to sleep more, to nourish ourselves, because when we do that, it helps us to thrive throughout the rest of our cycle. And when we don't do that, often we are depleted for the rest of the cycle.
Yeah,
Burnt out, yep. And then we come out of hibernation, and you can kind of picture like the bear like slowly coming out of the cave and like yawning and stretching and rubbing his eyes, and this is like those kind of last days of your bleed as you shift, your body shifts, and estrogen starts to rise. And estrogen is this beautiful hormone that gives you energy, increases like your brain function, increases like your ability to communicate effectively, and it's also like a social hormone, so you start to feel the desire to be more social, to connect with people. You even are more like better able to read subtle like non-verbal body language from other people, so you have this like higher emotional intelligence. And that's why so often like women will be like why doesn't he just know what I'm thinking, like why can't he just like guess, you know, like it's like because we can literally like read him. Like we
and each other.
Yeah, and each other.
Yeah.
Like we don't like, yeah, girls don't even, we can like telepathically communicate.
Yeah.
Because we can read our body language. Men don't have that hormone as much, so they truly have like no fucking clue. So we have to like verbally communicate. But anyway, so that's rising. That shifts into our inner spring, and then it rises more and more to this peak, and then there's also a peak of testosterone and other hormones that trigger the event of ovulation, which is like a 24 to 48 hour event. But you're likely feeling that high peak energy and high libido energy for like 3 to 5 days in that window, and that is your inner summer. So actually, let me go back. Like when you think about the vibes of spring, it's all about like renewal, like new beginnings, and starting fresh and planting seeds. So that's the time in your cycle where you're like, yeah, getting started on new projects and like brainstorming, you know, what do I want to create in this cycle? And you're often more social. You're more prone to trying new things. You're feeling very like bold and brave, and oftentimes, so this is the archetype of the inner maiden. And so the maiden, like, she can be she's like the naive little sister, where like you're just like patting her on the head and you're like, oh honey, like she's like just a little naive, she just doesn't know.
Full of hope.
Full of hope. Optimistic. And that is thanks to estrogen. And it can be a beautiful thing, but it can also be, you know, you might be more like risky. You might like
rose-colored glasses.
You might like
look past red flags.
Yes, you might make some decisions that are like not in your best interest.
Yeah. You had a really funny post about how I think it was, women avoid going on dates like premenstrually in their quote unquote autumn, because you're like a little bit more moody and whatever. And you were like, I think that's actually like a great time to go because like you're gonna be more honest with yourself, and if you go when you're ovulating, you're just gonna be like, yeah baby,
anything goes, like yeah. And then later on you're like, what the fuck, like how did I miss all those red flags?
Right.
Because literally your brain is in this hormonal soup of like positivity and get pregnant. So watch out. And then your inner summer, you think of the vibes of summer, it's very like outward expression and celebration and energy activity, so you're like even more social, high energy. And I want to say too that like sometimes not all women are experiencing that high energy in your ovulation, and if you're not, that's like something to get curious about. Sometimes you might be experiencing a depression around ovulation, and that could be because if you're not like partnered with someone, it could be your body expressing that sadness of like not getting pregnant or not having the opportunity to get pregnant. And again, this is all very biological, like on a biological level, even if consciously you're like, I don't want to get pregnant ever, right? Your body, like that's what it's trying to do every month, and so that's where that sadness can come up. Also, if you're not harnessing and channeling that powerful ovulation creativity energy, like you don't have to go create a baby, but creating like what you want to create, like bringing to life the projects that you're passionate about, if you're not like channeling that energy, it can feel like literally like a sexual frustration or some kind of like irritability, or like you might feel kind of like, sometimes I'll feel like really buzzy or like anxious or like just off, like I don't know how to describe it, it's just like off.
It was like we talked about in the car. I'm guessing I just ovulated. I track my cycle pretty closely, and like right when it happens, I'm like feeling good, and right when it happens, there's just something kind of like just a little bit more irritable, like a restlessness. Like
yes, restless, and it's like that. Okay, that energy needs to be directed somewhere. Like where can you direct that energy to create something in your life? And then
well, I love that, because I think there's a lot of people who don't want kids, and like never, or not now, and so they might hear this and be like, well, I don't have to worry about that, like I don't want kids ever. And so but so you've seen the timeline of like Earth, when we think it started to now, and you see humans and they're like a tiny little like period on this timeline, and we think we're so advanced and so great with our taxes and our cars, but like we haven't been around that long, and so we're like not that far removed from those instincts of make a baby. And so you don't have to make a baby, but you can create. And it's like all this is tied into like sexual health and reproductive health, and like that is literally creative life force. That's where it comes from.
And it's about legacy. Like when you really think about why do we feel compelled to make a baby? We are creating a legacy and like carrying on the species. So it's like when you create anything in the world, like how are you leaving your mark on the world? Like what are you leaving behind? What's your legacy? And podcasts are great for that, because you're like putting something out there that's living on beyond you. And so it can feel like a baby in that way,
Well, I think there's also probably a lot of people, that should have had a podcast or a book instead of a baby. So like, maybe think about that. And I think that like creative outlets are just so important in general for people. And like so many of us just spend so much time on our phones, and even just like working so many jobs to make ends meet, that you don't have time, and then by the time you get home you're too tired, you turn on Netflix. But like it is so fulfilling and rewarding to create something. And I don't know that I've ever, maybe I heard like Pam Grossman mention that before, but just like that analogy of like we have this biological drive to create a human, but you can, if you're not ready to create a human or don't want to, like you can channel that into something creative.
Yeah. Yep. And then after all of that juicy creation energy, you shift into the luteal phase, which is when estrogen drops and progesterone starts to rise.
Which is post-ovulation,
Post-ovulation,
moody time.
pre-bleed. Yeah, this is often the phase where people would experience what they label PMS. And yeah, there's so much I could say here, but like.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So I mean, PMS is a pretty common term. You seem to be not favorable, not a favorable term for you. So can you elaborate?
And then let me say that this is your inner fall. So when you think about the vibes of fall, it's like this slowing down, this releasing, kind of like letting go. You're starting to feel less social because of estrogen going down, and progesterone actually makes you sleepier. So I love a good luteal nap. I always say, I'm like always taking my luteal naps. So like permission to feel more tired and to take more naps and to like sleep in this phase, because literally progesterone is increasing the production of another neurotransmitter called GABA, which like makes you sleepy and relaxes you. And that is also like biologically by design, because your body is preparing for a potential pregnancy. Like at this point, it's still like kind of hoping that an egg was fertilized and that something's gonna happen. So it starts to like build up the uterine lining and create this nourishing home. And that's also why you might experience bloating in this phase, because your uterus is literally doubling in weight. So also permission to not get, you know, mad at yourself if it feels like you're gaining weight, and then you start to like, oh god, I gotta like run 10 miles this morning and like skip meals to like get my weight. No, like your body is doing what it's supposed to do. Your uterus is literally doubling in weight. Like this is supposed to happen. It's fine.
Yeah.
And yeah, like the term PMS, premenstrual syndrome, it's just so like
hysteria, like when they diagnosed women with hysteria.
Yeah, like I mean, just sometimes I'll Google just to see what, you know, the people I work with would be experiencing when they would type, you know, go to Google. I assume like a lot of people will go to Google and be like, why am I bloating? Like, why so much bloating before my period or something like that? Just to see like what comes up on the wild west of the internet. And like one of the first articles I see is like, oh, this is a normal part of premenstrual syndrome. And it's just like, hold on, why are we normalizing a syndrome?
Right.
Like, why are we not questioning, you know, it just is so odd to me. And there's aspects of it that, you know, like the bloating, your uterus doubling in weight, like that's a normal part of it. And it's also normal to be feeling a bit more sleepy because of the hormonal changes happening. It's also normal to be feeling more irritable and like frustrated around things, because the veil is like thinning. Like you're literally starting to see shit more clearly, because now the rose colored glasses of estrogen are taken off, and now you're like seeing shit for how it really is. And so this is why I love telling women to go on first dates in luteal, because you're seeing shit for how it really is. And yeah, this is the phase where you're okay. So the biological purpose of like certain things happening in this phase, you're more sensitive to stress, and your nervous system is in more of a sympathetic state, meaning like the fight or flight state, because as your body thinks it's preparing for pregnancy, it's naturally making you act with more caution.
Oh, that makes
So
sense.
you're naturally like seeing danger more, like in an effort to stay safe and like protect a potential life and your life. And so yeah, that's why like certain things that weren't pissing you off before like might be pissing you off now, or that's why maybe before like you were really happy with your partner and like feeling good, and then now you're like starting to question like, can this man really provide for me, and like is this really the man for me, like and it's just frustrating that that is called a syndrome, and like we're made to feel like, oh, you're so hormonal or like crazy for, you know, seeing shit for how it really is and calling it out, you know.
Exactly.
And like finally having boundaries,
exactly.
like they make that a problem.
Right, because women having boundaries and, you know, not taking shit is a problem
Yeah, exactly.
for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
I think so many like diseases or syndromes or like mental health diagnoses, or, you know, whatever the plural is, are like that. It's like, you know, a lot of people on the quote unquote spectrum are, you know, don't have like a filter, or, you know, a lot of people who are quote unquote neurodivergent like aren't good at the, you know, 9 to 5 like rat race and being good little soldiers.
Yeah.
And so they're demonized and called, you know, disabled. And you know, really like a lot of these people are like truth tellers that like don't put up with bullshit and are willing to call it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So after all that, once your body, if a pregnancy doesn't occur, it's all the hormones will drop to their lowest levels again, and the uterine lining that was building up in that phase to like, you know, protect a potential embryo will release, and that is what your menstrual blood is. And what's really cool is that if it were to turn into a pregnancy, like everything that was built up in the uterine lining would turn into the placenta, and that would be like what would provide nourishment to this new life. And that is what turns out to be our period if the pregnancy doesn't happen. And so menstrual blood is actually filled with nutrients and proteins and like enzymes and like all this like really good stuff.
Stem cells too. I heard that like they're looking into like that as a potential harvesting source, which would be amazing. Like imagine if you could like donate period blood instead of like plasma or eggs, you know. It'd be a lot less invasive, I imagine. And might change, you know, how people view periods.
Right.
Stem cells are crazy. I don't know if you've like looked at the research, but I have like, I know a few people that have taken them. Long COVID completely went away. You know, pretty hardcore injuries, you know, healed with no other treatment within a month or two. But the harvesting is often from umbilical cords, is my understanding. And then
often
I'm not
without
sure.
like permission.
Oh wow. I don't know enough about that, but
yeah.
But there's stem cells in period blood, which is exciting and interesting. You can't like just digest them, so you can't, you know, I don't recommend drinking your period blood. But
some people do, I've seen it.
Yeah.
Of course, on my feed. Yeah, I haven't tried that one yet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a first time for everything. Well, I wanted to mention, so the things that like helped me the most after like reading, you know, into this stuff and a lot of what you're saying. And I guess I should preface with, I was diagnosed with PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So it's like a step up from a syndrome. It's like, oh, you're really messed up. And really what it was just, I would, you know, a week before my period, I would get like really depressed, extremely tired, just like very irritable, and wanted to just like eat everything in sight and sleep. And it was kind of not fully debilitating, you know. I was still like kept my job, kept my relationships, blah blah blah, but it felt really really challenging, and so I actually started on Prozac a few years ago because of that. And since getting off birth control and learning about this stuff, I've been able to get off it. And I had tried in the past and couldn't. Like my body, like I just started getting all these symptoms, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess it's not the right time. I'll just keep taking it. And I'm not anti-meds. Like if it helps you, great. I was just scared about the lack of like long-term evidence with Prozac. Prozac is as old as I am, and we still don't know how that's going to turn out. So like it just made me a little bit nervous. Kind of the mystery of how it works. But the main thing, which you mentioned, was like allowing myself to rest, like before my period and during. And I know that it's not always easy to do that, but like scheduling my life around my cycle, if I can give myself like a full day or two to really just like do nothing except maybe go on a hike, do some yoga, read in bed for hours, like take a bath, and like really recharge my batteries, it has made such a difference. And also like when your quote unquote spring comes around, right, and you're coming out of your period and you start to get excited, like I'm feeling really good, I'm ready to go, but like one thing I learned from, again, that book, hold back like just a little, like keep a little bit in the tank.
Yeah.
Which is very hard for me to do, because when I'm feeling good, I'm like, well, I want to go.
Yeah.
But holding back just a little bit, like my energy has just been like so much more stable throughout my cycle. And not demonizing my feelings during, quote unquote PMS or my luteal phase, which I remember my therapist talking to her about it, like, man, I get really sad, and it's been hard. And she's like, well, what if you looked at that like it was truth, like the truth of things? And that was kind of hard to swallow, because it's often what comes up during that time is stuff that you don't necessarily want to face or know, but like ultimately you'll be better for it if you acknowledge it. And then the other like main thing is, this sounds so silly, but like prepping food during my quote unquote summer when I have the most energy, or even early fall, so that I'm not just eating, because like if I don't do that, like I will crave just like pizza, pasta, burgers, ice cream, candy, and like I still allow myself to have some of that stuff, but if it's too much, it's just a vicious cycle of you're gonna be more tired, more inflammation, all this shit. And so just honestly, like I can't believe I'm 33 and just learned that I can like freeze meals that I make at home. And I don't, like I can make a big batch of chili and I don't have to eat it for 7 days. It's actually way better to just like freeze it. You just need some glass Tupperware, guys. It's really easy. And it sounds so simple, but like just having healthy meals like ready to go instead of relying on my cravings has been a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. Love all that.
I want to ask you, I know that we're kind of like, we've been going for a while, we're almost at an hour, but I just wanted to ask you a couple more things. So one thing that you also teach is embodiment. And this is something that I was introduced to, a few years ago. Again, sounds super simple, like, hey, tune into your 5 senses. But in like our modern world, so much harder to do, because we have everything working against us to do that. And I know that a lot of the stuff that you put out is like very sensual and like sexual energy. And again, we talked about how that is like the creative life force. And you have like these great videos of you like twerking and just like dancing in your kitchen, which I love. And I love to dance, big fan. And I just wanted to ask you like about that, because I think that's something that's also demonized in just our world. Just any kind of woman in her, sensuality is automatically called like a slut, or, whatever. And so what has your experience been with that?
Yeah. Luckily, I feel like the people following me and like seeing that get where I'm coming from. Like, I've never had any kind of hate comments, like it's slutty or anything like that. But I have noticed in dating that it almost seems like guys assume that I'm the type of girl who would like just go home and hook up with them right away or whatever. Like they don't have to, you know, ask me on an actual date or something like that. Like, I don't know. Have been getting this vibe from guys that they seem to think that I'm doing it for them. Like, the dancing on my page is not for men at all. Like, it's literally for me and my own pleasure, and to inspire and empower other women to tap into their dancing if they want, you know?
Right.
And so that's been a little frustrating, but you know, it's not gonna stop me.
Good. Well, one thing, like, one of my favorite dance classes is called Tone and Twerk. And it's, so have you read The Body Keeps the Score? And so, like, a lot of trauma, especially sexual trauma, which many women, you know, have, is stored in the hips. And so, like, these hip openers, you know, whether it's stretching or twerking or dancing, like, it can be really like a very powerful, like, reclaiming of like releasing that, releasing your hips, releasing the trauma physically, and reclaiming like sensuality and sexuality in a way that feels like empowered and for you, not like somebody else owns it or you know, takes it, or all the other ways that we're told women's sexuality
and,
should
like,
exist.
Again, like, do it for yourself, because how often do we have to like perform in that way for others, you know? Like, it's often for others that we are looking sexy or like dressing a certain way or whatever, and it's like,
and how you look as opposed to how it feels,
right?
Like, or even, you know, and I remember feeling like this in my early 20s, you know, like worried about how I look in bed, you know what I mean? Like, what, you know, oh, my stomach roll or whatever, instead of focusing on how I feel.
Right.
And just in life in general, like, I think we're so, again, in our heads and not in our bodies.
And that's the beauty of dance, because you can literally be in your living room, you can close your eyes, you can look like a sack of potatoes and just like flop around, like whatever makes you feel good. Focusing on the feeling rather than how it's looking is so powerful.
I want to wrap up here, and but I did want to talk about the, you know, struggles with eating. I know that we've talked about, you know, we both struggled with eating disorders, or, you know, just kind of some habits around that weren't very helpful. And I too have struggled with, like, oh God, I'm bloating, you know, I gotta like work out twice as much, or, you know. So how did you like overcome that?
For me it was it kind of became this like obsession with healthy eating, to the point that it was unhealthy, where I was like scared of
the grocery store,
everything that could potentially be bad for me, and I was like obsessively reading food labels, and if it had anything like remotely bad, I would choose to just not eat at all over like eat something that had a seed oil in it, you know?
Right.
Which was not healthy. And I was also vegan, and I was one of those righteous, like, you know, I'd be like getting in the comments, like fighting people, like that girl. And I used to, in my practice, push like a plant-based diet to women who would come to me with period problems, and then I had to put away my pride and really get so freaking honest with myself, look at what's happening in my body, because I was in denial. Like, I felt like shit. I was so bloated. I was chronically fatigued, brain fog, like, and I just thought that was just how I was.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought that I was just a tired person, like that was my personality or something.
Right.
And so I was in denial about, I mean, if I did think it was around food, it was more like, oh, that means I must cut out more food, you know? That means I must have eaten, it was that one Twix bar, you know, that like fucked me over. So then I would like get so hard on myself and cut it out and then do excessive HIIT workout, like hour-long HIIT workouts as like a punishment. So yeah, it was very like punishment mindset based. Like, if I ever did anything wrong, if I like failed a test in school, then I like wouldn't allow myself to eat or shower, or I would like, yeah, like even showering was like a reward for doing good. Twisted.
No, it gets dark. I have stories.
Yeah.
It gets dark.
And I often refer to vegan as like a socially acceptable eating disorder, because it's like low key. Like, often, I mean, a lot of women are vegan and it's kind of an excuse to like eat less.
That.
Yeah.
Can't go to that party.
Yeah.
Can't eat it.
Yeah, but it's
a lot of diets, not just vegan.
Yeah, right.
Like, there's paleo, keto, you know, like obviously if something works for you and you're feeling great. But I don't really subscribe to anything that's extreme or tells you, you know, it's like black and white.
Yeah, and like forever.
Right.
Like, maybe it's something that, you know, helps you like in the short term, but it should never be like, this is how it is forever.
So was there like a turning point?
Yeah, so for me, again, like I just had to get so honest and look at what's happening in my body and be like, okay, something's not working. And the breaking point for me, funny enough, was I had such bad like vaginal dryness, and when I was like seeing this guy, and when we would try to hook up, like I was so dry that I would bleed, but I was nowhere near my period. Like the friction and how dry it was, I would like bleed.
Needed some more seed oils.
Yeah, right. And then I learned that, you know, cholesterol is so demonized, but cholesterol is a building block of our hormones. Like, our hormones are made from cholesterol that we get from our food, and in a vegan diet there is no cholesterol. And I went to the doctor and I like had my levels checked for like vitamin D, B vitamins, cholesterol, like all the things, and my cholesterol was so low, like not, you know, not like a good low or whatever, it was like too low. And cholesterol also is part of hydrating our tissues. So we don't only receive hydration from like water or like the juice from the fruits that we eat or whatever, it's also from the cholesterol, which hydrates our tissues. And so my tissues, literally in my vaginal wall, like there was no juice because there was no cholesterol. And I couldn't even like, even if I was like turned on or whatever, I wouldn't even produce like arousal fluid. So yeah, that was the breaking point for me. I was like, all right, I'm not having painful sex over here. Like, let's get this shit figured out. So, and after seeing the literal like numbers in my lab results, I was like, oh, like something's wrong. And once I started incorporating animal protein into my diet again, it was like poof, like all my problems went away. I, for like the first time in my life, started seeing the cervical, like the fertile like cervical mucus. Like, when I first started learning about fertility awareness method and tracking your cervical fluid, they would talk about the like stretchy egg white, like really fertile fluid, and I was like, is that real? Like, I've never seen, like I was just dry all the time, like all cycle long, until I started eating animal products again and having like being properly nourished so that those hormones could actually be produced, because it's your hormones that trigger the production of the cervical mucus. So
Yeah, I think that I was vegan for a time too, and it was like at the height of my, I mean, basically anorexia. And like I remember, did you ever read the book Skinny Bitch?
Mm-mm.
It was like a best-selling book and convinced me to go vegan. And honestly, like it is very convincing. Not into factory farms, you know. I think
Yep.
there's a lot wrong with like how
Oh, yeah.
we produce food and meat, especially. But like I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to be a skinny bitch, and I
Yep,
had like hit a
same.
plateau in my extreme, you know, diet, and I was like, oh, maybe if I go vegan, I can be skinnier.
Yeah.
And then it just, you know, snowballed, and then you start binging because your body's like so hungry. And I like a lot of like vegetarian food, but my body genuinely craves meat and like fish and eggs, not all the time, but I just learned to listen to it. And
Also, like, isn't it such a, you know, there's such a mental load when you have an eating disorder and all you're thinking
It's
about
all you think
is
about.
food.
Your life is that was the worst part about it, is because like you want to do these creative projects, you want to have a life, but you have no fucking life. Consumed. When am I gonna exercise? What can I eat? How many calories was that? And, you know, like body checking, all that fucked up. Like it is terrible.
And now it's like, my mind is so clear. Like I don't think about that ever. Like I don't think about, you know, how is this, if I eat this thing, like what's gonna happen or whatever. Like I don't have that anymore. And it's like, wow, look at all this extra brain space I have.
It's the best part.
Yeah.
Like I'm not, you know, I definitely still have days where I struggle, but it's night and day for how it happened. And I think for me, I had gotten to the point where, yeah, this is, you know, really gross, but like I had starved myself, and then your body starts to binge, and I would like throw up in trash bags in my closet because I didn't want anybody to hear me. I was still living at home at my parents' house. I was like 18, and just being like, this is disgusting. I don't want to live like this, you know. And I wrote on my mirror, I made this like little doodle that just said like, you are beautiful in every way, and I like taped it to my mirror, and somehow like that shifted things, and I started reading more like eating disorder recovery content instead of, you know, stuff to feed the disorder. And just like, you're more than your outsides, and like telling myself you're more than looking like a magazine where that girl doesn't even fucking like look like that. And that was another thing that helped me, and I still to this day follow accounts like, it's called like social media versus reality, where they'll post like celebrities or influencers like in good lighting and bad lighting, or like showing the edits or the cellulite, and it's like even the most beautiful women and people have flaws. You know, we're just so used to seeing these edited images that we think that, you know, if we have a jiggle or, you know, like an ingrown hair, that we're like monsters. But it's not true. Like we all have that weird shit, we're just not used to seeing it. So that helped too, just like changing my online consumption, and like you were saying, curating your feed. Like I am constantly doing unfollowing, or like, don't show me that feature of like, I don't want to see this, and like making sure that like what I'm seeing is not harmful to me.
Totally.
Well, Dana, I keep talking to you forever. I want to ask you, just for listeners who are new to learning about period health and hormonal health and all this stuff, like what are, you know, some 3 takeaways like people can just start if they want to learn more about this and like get on a better track with their hormones and period health. Where's a good starting point?
Well, I have a podcast as well called the Wombology podcast that you can find on Spotify, Apple, wherever. That has a lot of, I think there's like 53 or something, interviews on there on all kinds of topics of period health, hormone health, all of that stuff. So that's a good starting point. And yeah, there's a lot of books as well. Like the first book I read was Woman Code by Elisa Vitti, and she kind of coined the term cycle syncing, and that's, you know, the practice of living in alignment with your cycle, aligning your nutrition, your exercise, your social life, your work life with those 4 hormonal phases that we talked about, those 4 inner seasons. And a third one, follow my Instagram page. I love talking about this stuff, and yeah, you know, if you have any questions, DM me.
And it's right.
Womb.ology.
Okay. So WOMB.OLOGY.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Wombology on Instagram if you want to see excellent twerking videos along with very helpful hormonal information.
Yes.
And anything else you want to tell people about that you're up to? Or I know you do a lot of like creative community stuff and people are joining your community. So anything else?
Yeah, if you're in Austin and you're a woman, I'm part of the Squirrel Friends ATX community, which is like a women's empowerment group, and we meet every Wednesday, and we do all types of activities like workouts. I do monthly women's circles. We do like tree climbing, forest bathing, hiking, excursions, adult recess kind of vibes, where we're like playing, you know, games that you would play as a kid, like, but as an adult out in the park, and it's really fun. So yeah, there's that. And then I have a program that I'm currently working on. I don't have like the link or anything even yet, but it's going to be called Womb Led Woman. So it's about living your life, you know, being led by your womb, meaning like living in alignment with your cycle and tuning into your womb, your body, for guidance in your life. And I think I'll leave it at that for now. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you and the work that you're doing and all your freaky period stuff. I love to see it. And yeah, thank you so much, Dana. Follow her on Instagram, guys.
Thank you.